Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Cordray, for being here. I represent a district that has a lot of rural, good, hard-working folks in it. A lot of them live paycheck to paycheck. And what, if you were me, what would you tell them if they came to me and said they had an emergency and they needed to get $50 or $100 for a week or 3 or 4 days? Where would you advise me to tell them to go to get that kind of credit?
I don't. There's any number of places, but I don't generally stand in the shoes and try to tell consumers what to do.
You don't?
No, I don't.
Well,
I don't.
You tell them what they can't do, and that's my point. You know, I was in the building business, and I've loaned people $20 or $50 or $100. That's coming to me because a child was hurt, transmission was out, had to turn on the electricity. And I've seen it in their eyes. And it seems to me what the CFPB is trying to tell these folks is that they don't have enough sense to be able to manage their own affairs. And you're trying to make rules that puts out payday lenders, pawn shops, prepaid credit cards where people can have an overdraft protection so the card wouldn't be turned down if you're going into a drugstore to buy medicine for a child or whatever. So, you know, you say you don't tell them what they, you don't advise them where they can go, but you're trying to make it to where they can't go to these people that they have been dealing with for years. And a lot of them, their families have been dealing with these people for years. So I'd like to hear what you want to tell these folks and that I can go tell them when they're sources of these small dollar loans, maybe just for 2 or 3 days, maybe for a week, maybe for 2 weeks. I want you to tell me where to tell them to go, because if they go to the bank to get a $50 loan for 2 days, the dang fees will be so high they wouldn't be able to get it, even if the bank would consider loaning it to them. So if you could just tell me what you would do.
Okay. So a couple things. Number one, you're making a judgment that we're going to do this, we're going to do that. We're at the beginning of a rulemaking process on payday and other small dollar loans, and that will unfold, and there'll be a lot of public input into it. I have said time and again, said it earlier in this hearing, that we believe that people need access to credit for those purposes, exactly the kinds of things you're talking about, emergency needs. But they should not, we should not easily tolerate that people end up rolling loans over and over and over, and they end up paying far more in fees than they borrowed in the first place, and they're in a debt trap, and they tell us about it all the time in comments that they submit to our agency. That's a concern. That's harming the consumer, not helping the consumer. How to balance that is difficult. It's a complicated thing. We've been working on this for now 3 years. You know, it's a very difficult task, I would agree. But we're going to do our best to try to strike that balance.
Well, you talk about making rules to keep them from rolling over. I'm sure there'll be rules about what percentage rate they can be charged. And you got to understand that most of these people are not banked. They're non-banked individuals.
Well aware of that. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And so, you know, and if you've ever loaned anybody any money personally?
Actually, well aware of that. Although most payday lender borrowers are banked. They have a bank account. That's where the money's coming from. That's where they write the check on. So, by definition, most of those actually are banked.
Yeah.
So,
I'm sure that all of them are banked.
I have not myself been a extensive
well,
lender.
If you ever have anybody, you know, in my case, I would have somebody come up and say, "Hey, I need $50 till Friday," and I saw it in his eyes that he was going to get $50, and it was either me loan him the $50 and take a chance on getting it back Friday, or lose a saw or a generator or something of that nature. And so I think when you're making these rules, I hope that you will understand that there are people that do use these type of ways to get credit. And especially now that this prepaid credit card has come out, then this is an avenue that, at least from what we've heard, for people to allow their kids to have an allowance or college spending or whatever on the prepaid cards. And they would much appreciate if there was just, say, a $15 overcharge fee or overdraft fee, rather than these people being denied credit at a time when they need it the most. So with that, Mr.